Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. I got an analogy. 888-589-8840. We're going to go to the phones here in just a second. 888-589-8840. A couple of quick things before we go to the phones. Really touching story from Chicago on Fox News this morning. A group of Marines on their way home from Afghanistan got something they didn't expect after spending the better part of 5 days getting on and off planes as they tried to get from one side of the globe to another. Cheers from a small crowd of police, a fire truck water salute, and first-class plane tickets. The 13 Marines found themselves treated like heroes Monday night at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport after a retired Marine and others scrambled to make sure they were thanked in style before departing on the final leg of their journey to San Diego. After their plane taxied beneath an arch of water from fire department hoses and what is called a water salute, the Marines walked into the terminal and were met by a small crowd of cheering USO volunteers, firefighters, police officers, and airport workers. And then this is the cool part. Short time later, they were getting on board a jet for the final leg of their trip to San Diego. And they discovered when they got on board the plane that American Airlines has a policy to upgrade servicemen and women in uniform whenever it's possible. So if they've got some first-class seats open and they've got a serviceman in uniform, they will upgrade them to first class. So they had 6 seats open. So they upgraded 6 of the servicemen to first class. Now, here's what's cool. The 7 other passengers that were in first class, they got up and gave their first-class seats to these Marines, and they went back and sat in the main passenger cabin so that all 13 of these Marines could fly back to San Diego first class. It was incredibly touching, said the captain of this group. Great, great story. Now, before we go to the phones, thought of an analogy for Obamacare this morning. I'd read about this, but I had no idea how big it was. There is this floating island of debris that is 3 times the size of Britain. It's bigger than the state of Texas. It is floating across the Pacific Ocean. It's debris that's accumulated out in the ocean after that tsunami in Japan. And because of the currents, it has been slowly making its way across the Pacific Ocean. It is a floating island of junk, a floating island of waste and debris that's 3 times the size of Britain. It's bigger than the state of Texas, and it's floating toward the United States. And I thought, man, this is an analogy for Obamacare. Listen to how this is described on the Mirror newspaper in the UK. 5 million tons of debris made up of devastated property making its way to the U.S. A floating island of debris 3 times the size of Britain is heading for the California coastline. 5 million tons of rubbish made up of devastated homes, boats, cars, and businesses is making its way across the Pacific Ocean. Latest findings suggest that California is expected to be hit with a deluge all at once. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration released their latest findings showing a huge island of rubbish floating northeast of the Hawaiian Islands. Well, that floating island of rubbish and debris, it has hit the continental United States in the form of Obamacare. All right, let's go to the phones. Let us go to Roy in Richmond, Virginia. Roy, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Roy. How you doing?
Good. How are you, man?
Good.
I'd like to make 3 points if I could real quick and then hand the ball off to Leroy.
All right, hit me.
Okay. The devil and this Democrat Party are doing their darndest to take away our God-given freedoms and replace them with sin, death, and addiction. Also, Ken Cucinelli lost the election partly because he decided to have a convention instead of a primary and a third-party candidate.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, Chris Christie is part of the lie. The lie they are telling us now is that personal responsibility means that we should take care of that we have to take care of other people, and also that the shutdown of the government is causing consumer confidence to go down. It's not the layoffs. It's not people being cut back to 21 hours. It's not Obamacare, the regulations, the taxation, the punishment of his enemies. It's none of these negative things that Obama's doing. And is it any wonder that Democrats love Chris Christie? And what would a candidate's chance of being elected in New Jersey if he actually told the truth?
All right, Roy, listen, I appreciate the call. And, Roy's there in Richmond, so that Ken Cucinelli race very near and dear to his heart and very important election. And, of course, Ken Cucinelli lost by about 2.5 points, I think, 48 to 45-5 or something like that. Now, there are several factors there. That's disappointing because Cucinelli is a social conservative. Here's the problem. There are a number of problems with this, and this is why we shouldn't lose too much heart over this. Ken Cucinelli did not campaign as a social conservative. He has been a social conservative. He's staunchly pro-life. He staunchly believes in man-woman marriage, but for some reason he went silent in this campaign on socially conservative issues. He was sort of intimidated, apparently, into silence. And so they were beating him up for being an extremist on the socially conservative issues, and he didn't go out there and defend those values. So that was part of it. You got to lay that at Cucinelli's feet. He just got intimidated into backing away from his socially conservative values. So that's part of it. We don't know what would have happened if he had campaigned as an unapologetic social as well as economic conservative. And even despite that, this Terry McAuliffe barely won this election. He was up double-digit leads as recently as late October. And his lead shrunk to where he only won by about 2.5 points. And the trend was clearly with Cucinelli, the Republican, the social conservative. And if this election had happened a week from now, I think there's a very good chance, just with the drift, that Cucinelli would have won because of Obamacare. What Cucinelli did in the last several weeks of this campaign is he hung Obamacare like an anvil around Terry McAuliffe's neck. And it was dragging him down. It was dragging him underwater. If this election had been held a week from now, I think there's a very good chance that, money or not, Cucinelli would have won this thing simply because of Obamacare. Now, and another factor here is that the Republican Party had put some money into this race. There's a very, very good chance that Cucinelli could have won. In 2009, when Bob McConnell ran, or Bob McDonnell ran for governor, the National Republican Party put in $9 million into that campaign. This year, they only put in $3 million, and Cucinelli got outspent by $15 million. He was virtually silent in D.C. on the airwaves in the last 2 weeks of the campaign. You just have got to have money to win elections. There's no other way around it. The Republican Party was in position to help them, and they just didn't do it. There's another factor here, and that is that there was a fake candidate, a fake libertarian candidate that also ran in this race. One of Obama's major bundlers, this is a guy that's probably raised $500,000 for Obama. He put up the front money to have this guy go out and hire signature gatherers to get his name on the ballot as a libertarian. The guy is not a libertarian. He's a completely bogus candidate, but he ran as a libertarian in the hopes it would draw enough votes away from Cucinelli that it would give the victory to McAuliffe. And so they ran this guy as a libertarian. Now, he's not. He's not anywhere near being a libertarian. He's just a classic, hardcore liberal Democrat for the most part. But you got people going in there. They like Ron Paul. They like Rand Paul. They hear about libertarianism. They've read Ayn Rand or heard about her. And say, yeah, I like the libertarian guy. I don't want anybody telling me what to do. I'm going to go for the libertarian guy. So they go in there, and this guy got about 7% of the vote. Now, think about that. If that guy's not in the race and that vote goes 5-2, those libertarians, because they're probably not going to vote for the liberal guy because liberals are for big government. So they're probably going to vote, if they're inclined to vote libertarian, they'll probably vote for the conservative guy. If they go 5-2 for Cucinelli, he wins. So it's entirely possible that the presence of that bogus candidate, and again, I don't fault them for doing it. They didn't break any rules, so they can do it as long as they don't break the rules. then whatever they do is all fair, love, and war and politics. They can do it. But that was enough, perhaps, turn the tide. Grab one more phone call. Let's go to David in Chesterville, Virginia. David, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Y'all are very, very y'all are awesome in everything you do, and we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, your show goes off in an hour, so I'll talk real fast. Now, did the screener tell you what call I wanted to ask you?
Well, it had something to do with the homosexuality, I think, and maybe the book of Revelation. Go ahead.
Well, if you know the question, I can take it off the air, but what it is, we all know that Christ is coming back and get his church, and then there's going to be, we know that the unholy trinity, Satan and the Antichrist and the false prophet. Now, with everything that's going on with the same-sex marriage agenda and just everything in the world, and each generation has thought they were in a generation. What is your speculation of? Do you think Obama is gonna introduce the false prophet and/or the Antichrist? Do you think maybe this is the time?
All right, Dave, listen, I appreciate the call, and I'll try to give the best answer I can in just the next 30 seconds. And the answer is the same answer I would give no matter what period of history you were talking to me about, and no matter who you were talking about. We just don't know. Because the way I understand prophecy is from the first advent of Christ, that is from 70 A.D. until 2013 A.D., Satan has been relentlessly trying to introduce a counterfeit one-world religion, a counterfeit one-world government, and a false prophet and a counterfeit leader, political and spiritual leader. He's always been trying to do that. So you can look down through history. That's why every generation of Christians thought they were living in the last days, because Satan is going to keep after that until he gets it done. Whether he'll do it in our time, we'll have to wait to find out. Focal Point AFR Talk.